It is victory for President Bola Tinubu at the Presidential Election Petition Court. The court affirmed Tinubu as president after dismissing 3 petitions challenging his electoral victory during the February 25 polls. Petitions of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, Labour Party's presidential candidate Peter Obi, and the petition of the Allied People's Movement APM were dismissed for lacking merit. The Labour Party and the People's Democratic Party insist they will appeal the judgment. However, based on documentation, the 2023 election had a record low turnout of 29% in a nation of more than 200 million people, of whom 87 million citizens were registered to vote. Bola Tinubu, the winner of the election, garnered just 8.79 million votes, the fewest of any president since the return to democracy in 1999. Joining us now on this morning show is Jesutega Onokpasa, lawyer and member of the dissolved All Progressives Congress Presidential Campaign Council, and James C. Ezike, a lawyer and former legal counsel to Chief M.K. Abiola and Celestine Omehia. Well, we have here in the studio with us in Lagos, Mr. James Ezike. Good to have you join us. Well, this morning we've also been reflecting on the ruling of the appeal court yesterday. Just to have your impression, particularly the fact that the court found that there was no merit whatsoever in all the issues raised, pleadings raised by the petitioners. And the lordships kept saying, petitioners failed to, petitioners failed to. It was a litany of failures on the part of the petitioners. So very quickly, if we may just have your reflections.
Yeah, good morning, viewers. The weakness of that judgment is its precision.
It's what?
It's precision.
Okay.
And that's what I used to call computer judgment or computer briefs. Namely, you pick up your computer, get the authorities, and pour them in. I would only touch on the one that will not have any controversy because I don't belong to any political party. The last time I belonged to a political party was in 1978-79 when I contested election to the House of Reps. Now, what the weakest point in that judgment is their finding on Federal Capital Territory. That is very embarrassing because they were so sure of what they were saying. And they said the Federal Capital Territory, there is a provision in the Constitution, that's a general provision in the Constitution that says it should be treated as a state.
That's Section 299.
Yes,
Section
as a
299.
state. I don't like citing sections.
Yeah, it's Section 299.
Yes, now, that should be treated as a state. If Abuja were a state, then Abuja should have its House of Assembly. But it doesn't. It should have 3 senators, but it has only 1. All the other states have 3 senators. Like I always point out, and I quote the American jurist, the basis of law is not logic, but experience. For instance, the reason why we copied in the United States of every state having 3 senators is just without any basis. In the United States, the basis was when they were forming the United States, those states, the small states said, no, we won't be part of you. You're going to cheat us because if representation is based on population, then we can't be had. And they said, all right, let every state have the same number of senators. That is 2 over there. In our own case, we made it 3. It used to be 2 during the Chagari time. Now we made it 3. Abuja does not have 3. And like I said, it doesn't have its own House of Assembly as it is. So, and the rules of interpretation also would apply. For instance, why is it that there's no provision in the Constitution saying that if you want to win election as a governor, you must also win 25% in this your state capital? And as with regard to the other findings, like I said, it's a computer judgment. All the lawyers have to do is read those authorities and then go through and then destroy them. I have always had cases like that where when a case comes and I see so much precision, I know, oh, the lawyer sent the brief to, say, a professor to advise him, and the professor just wrote something and he copied it. And all you have to do is post it.
Are you questioning the integrity of their lordships?
It's not, I'm not pressing, well, I didn't say so, but it is really highly suspicious that Bola Tinubu traveled to India on the eve of the judgment without being worried that behind his back, they may say he lost the election and he's in a foreign land. That says legion, as far as I'm concerned. And like I said, I don't want to go to the other grounds. The lawyers handling it would be able to handle it. Like, for instance, the question of subpoena. I've been subpoenaed in the United States to give evidence. One as an expert and another on the basis of facts involving a client. We learned all this front-loading from those places. There was no such front-loading as it is. So I think that leaves much to be desired. But what I would like to say, more importantly, is that it's not unexpected. No elected president has ever lost in the Supreme Court. None since we started. And that is worrisome. Another thing that makes it impossible for an incumbent to be defeated unless it happens to be Jonathan is that we changed our laws. The most surprising thing about electoral acts is that they are the same all over the world. It remained the same in Nigeria until during the Obasanjo regime, we started changing things. So it's the same. If you will be shocked, you look at the electoral act in the United States, it's the same thing. The elections are organized by the county. It is, okay, in these days, you say province or local government. It is where they do these things. Like they say, all politics is local. Now you appoint the people who will be in charge of elections from Abuja.
Well, Mr. Ezike, I understand that Jesutega Onokpasa has joined us in our Abuja studio. Good morning, Jesutega, if you can hear me from Lagos. Good morning. Yes.
Good morning, Dr. Abati.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Well, I'm sure you had part of the commentary by Mr. Ezike here in the Lagos studio. Just to take your own reaction, do you agree with him that that judgment by their lordships was he called it a computer judgment? You probably mean artificial intelligence generated judgment. But what's your own take?
First of all, let me quickly react to the two last things he said. One, I think he said Bola Tinubu, our president, went to India and that's suspicious. I don't know what he expects the president to do. Does he expect our president to not to do his job because there's a pending judgment? If peradventure the judgment had gone the other way, President Tribunal will still have a right of appeal to the Supreme Court. It's not as if he's going to be booted out of office. So he's just doing what Bola Tinubu knows how to do best. That is try to deliver for Nigerians as far as I'm concerned. Now, he's also said some other thing that I would like to correct. He says no presidential election has been overturned in Nigeria. And I think this is part of the most rather unfortunate narrative of trying to indict and without any shred of evidence undermine the judiciary. Ruben, do you know why no presidential election has been overturned in Nigeria? It is because everybody that has been elected president of Nigeria since 1999, regardless of how mad the elections have been, that person that was returned the winner still won a majority of the lawful votes cast. These things are forensic. It's a question of counting the votes. It's not sentiment. You know, that is why. It is not because the judiciary is corrupt or the judiciary feels intimidated. What panned out yesterday is, I would say, an indictment on professional rascality on the part of some lawyers. How do you bring such frivolous petitions to a court of law? Then you bring these petitions, and then, bad as they are, you do not even bother to try to prove your case. That is the judgment. I'm aware that, Dr. Abati, you are a lawyer yourself. And for a lawyer sitting there, it would have been so embarrassing to hear their lordships deliver that verdict, that indictment on the behavior of our learned colleagues. The judgment was basically to the effect that Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar did not even bother. They didn't attempt to prove their petitions. And it is so shocking. Let me leave it at that for now.
All right. Mr. Ezike, thank you very much. Sorry, not Mr. Ezike, Mr. Onokpasa, thank you very much for joining us from Abuja. I'd like you to also respond to what Mr. Ezike had mentioned with regards to the 25% in Abuja, the ruling, because that's one ruling that has become quite contentious with regards to what then this means. Abuja, if this is considered as the 37th state, then would it have a governor, 3 representatives in the House? So those questions have come up, and Mr. Ezike had talked about them before you joined us this morning. I'd like to get your thoughts on that as well. And then for Mr. Ezike, another matter that's come up is the ruling with regards to the fact that the justices said that beavers, which would be used to transmit results real time, was to be used or considered to be used by INEC as discretionary, despite its provisions in the Electoral Act. I'd like to get your thoughts on that particular judgment as well. And I'll first start with Mr. Onokpasa.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Ayo, is Mr. Ezike a lawyer? With respect.
Yes, he is.
Beautiful. Now, since Mr. Ezike is my learned colleague, I would assume even my senior, he would know the position of the law on these matters. The law does not compel electronic transmission of results, and he knows it. The law is clear. So I wouldn't even bother myself about that. Their lordships exhaustively treated that matter yesterday. Now, if Mr. Ezike still wants to litigate the question of 25% in Abuja, I have just one question to ask him. Now, substantively, if we are to go by that, in terms of substantive law, does it make sense to him that the citizens of Abuja should have a veto power over a Nigerian presidential election? Could that have been the intent of the Constitution? How can it be that Abuja should have a veto power but not Delta? What has Abuja ever contributed to the development of Nigeria? This is a place Well, I'm in Abuja. My learned friend, Mr. Ezike, is in Lagos. Does Lagos not contribute more to the well-being of Nigeria than Abuja? Why should Lagos not have the veto power? Why should not Delta? If we are to go by the contribution of every state to the sustenance of Nigeria, I dare say Delta State has probably contributed more to the revenue of this country than any other state. And I'm not joking. So why not Delta State? Why Abuja? Who are these people that live in Abuja? Why not Zamfara? Are we going to create first-class and second-class citizens in our country? Well, frankly, I'm not interested in my learned friend's opinion. That's his opinion. Their lordships held, and for me, according to law, that all of us in this country are equal. Nobody has veto power over anyone else. If you win, is Mr. Ezike saying if Bola Tinubu had won 2/3 in 36 states, they didn't get 2/3 in the FCT, then he should have lost. His election should be invalidated. Then what is his alternative? Okay, Peter Obi got, was it 58% in the FCT? How was he supposed to be declared a winner of the election? Did he get 2/3 did he get 1/4 in 2/3 of the states? What a bizarre petition. In fact, the petition from the onset was, I feel, a frolic on professionalism. That's how I would categorize it, because I don't really know what Peter Obi was after. What was his end game? That you say, if Peter Obi claims, Ayo,
yes,
Ruben and I believe Rufai is there. If Peter Obi claims that Bola Tinubu rigged him, yet INEC says Bola Tinubu won, and there's a presumption of regularity, and Mr. Ezike over there would most certainly understand why we have presumption of regularity in law. Now, if INEC says that Bola Tinubu came first, Waziri Abubakar came second, Peter Obi came third. Now, the obedience, Peter Obi's camp, Aisha Yesufu, Obi Ezekwe, all of them say no. It is Peter Obi first, Atiku Abubakar second, and President Tinubu third. Beautiful. Let's assume that was the case. How did Bola Tinubu then end up first? So, if that was the trajectory at first, then Bola Tinubu would need to have rigged Atiku from first to third, then from second to third, then replaced him as second. Then the rigging would have been between him and then Peter Obi. Then he rigs Peter Obi into second. Then how did Peter Obi end up as third? Is it that Atiku then rigged him from second to third? Mrs. Esemairo, do you know how Bola Tinubu won this election? He won the election because Peter Obi defeated Atiku Abubakar, and Atiku Abubakar defeated Peter Obi. It is so clear. What is Mr. Ezike saying? A senior lawyer of Mr. Ezike's caliber should be able to count the votes. With respect, please.
Let's stay on the issues.
Should be able to count votes.
Issues. Mr. Onokpasa, let's stay on the issues. Thank you very much. So this is not the first time. In Imo State, we have the example of Governor Hope Uzodimma, who was fourth. So it wouldn't be totally something that's never been heard or seen before. But let me come to Mr. Ezike now, just to go back. I mean, you already talked about the 25%, but let's talk about the use of beavers for transmission of election results and the court ruling that it is discretionary. What's your take on that?
Well, like I said, the jurisprudence of the case and other cases will come out when the appeal comes in. But talking about beavers, the problem with the whole thing is not the interpretation. The problem is fraud. the INEC announced before the election that it is beavers they will use to transmit just before the election, and insisted on it as it is. I don't know how P2B's lawyers pleaded, but I knew their problem. That is fraud anywhere in the world. And then you ended up not using it. And so if the candidate was hoping that, yes, these people will come out with the result, the candidate may not bother about the other things. If at the polling station you transmit the result, and then suddenly you say, no, we won't look at it at all. That is fraud. It's a pity that there was a Supreme Court judgment that said that fraud is a criminal. It is not criminal always. It is not. In civil law, if you look at the rules of pleadings all over the world, all you need to do is to particularize it. It is not necessarily a criminal matter which you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. But even then, particularize it. I don't know whether they did that, but it was fraudulent for them to do that, only now to switch and say, no, that's not applies. So that is number one. And if the people who conducted the election were fraudulent, the election should be set aside. If they did that, then I had my Leonard Jr. talking about other matters relating to what I said earlier about the election results. The crucial point is that we are saying that the election was rigged. That is the crucial point. I am not a counsel to any of the parties. Like I said, I don't belong to any party. The only person I represented in election petitions consistently was Ojukwu. I was his counsel when he was ran for Senate in 1983. I was his counsel when he ran for president twice. And I was Lucio Lasrake's lawyer. I was MK Abiola, and I was Celeste Nomeha's lawyer. So I am used to these things. And let me shock my learned friend. Obasanjo didn't win the Southeast in 1999. It was Falaye who won. But Falaye did not have polling agents in the Southeast. In fact, I remember the meeting we held with Nahoro in Baba's house in Lekki Skinwan. I've forgotten his name. The one who is always, who is Afenifere leader. Ayo Adebanjo leader. And finally I started regretting that he didn't know he won in the Southeast. Because after they snatched PDP away from the man who formed it, that's Alex Ekweme, from him, the voters in the East were angry. So they didn't vote for Obasanjo. They voted for Falaye. If you want to look at it logically, look at how the results were announced. Falaye won in the cities where they couldn't rig. Then the rigging took place in the in the rural areas, as it is. Okay. And so the question is, you mentioned Omeya. The case I did for him. Good. I didn't know him. He got a call. I got a call from him. He said, a Supreme Court judge who is his friend said that judgment that gave Amechi the state, that there's something wrong with it, but he can't put a finger on it, that there's somebody who can. He called me and said he will come to Lagos to see me. I told him, okay, actually, I was in Abuja, come and see me. He came and asked me, what is wrong with it? I said the Supreme Court was making law. They were not interpreting it. That's what they did. And I went to court on it. The Supreme Court didn't allow me to argue it. But they were making laws. The law says it is the voters who put in power. And in that judgment, they said it was not the voters, but the parties that win and lose the election. And so this man was nominated, and then he ran away to Ghana when EFCC was chasing him, and then he won.
Okay, so I want a lot of clarification here. So from the election verdict, there were 5 takeaways. Abuja is now a 37th state.
Yes.
So is it that everything that happens to every state now happens in Abuja? And there's also a part that says electronic transmission of results is discretionary. If it was discretionary, why did INEC apologize for the technical glitch that happened on that day? Yeah. That question is to you, sir, and is also to you. If it was discretionary, why did INEC apologize for the technical glitch that happened? Yeah, Mr. Jesutega. So why did INEC apologize? Hey, Maga, how you doing now? Bless you.
In the first...
Well, why did INEC apologize for the technical glitch that happened that day if it was discretionary? Because if it was discretionary, INEC could have just come out to say that, oh, it's discretionary. We have a right to use whatever we want to use. And another citing and deposition in the courts by the APC was the announcement made by the INEC chief 2-3 days before the election that it was reported that it was a meeting in the night with some people that they said, INEC said that it was going to use just the beavers to snap and not to have the real result because it could be hacked to, just to snap to keep as a record there. So why did INEC apologize for the technicality? Why didn't INEC come out to say that, oh, it's based on our discretion, I would choose not to be able to use this process? Why did they apologize for the technical glitch?
Okay. My response to that is as follows. 1, I cannot hold brief for INEC. I'm not INEC's lawyer. 2, I would suppose if I were to hazard a reason why INEC would apologize, then it would be because it had earlier on intended to electronically transmit these results in real time. Now, I do not know, and I will not pretend or purport to know what happened. However, I am privy to some, let's just say, information about people trying to hack the INEC server. And these people were not of our party. They were Labour Party supporters, they were Peter Obi supporters and Atiku supporters. Some of them were alleged at the time to be agents of Cambridge, that is former agents of Cambridge Analytica. So I don't really know. According to INEC, they were unable to transmit the results because there was a glitch. I would rather believe them. And the reason why I would believe them is that even without this so-called real-time transmission of results, they were still able to collect 6.2 million or so votes for Peter Obi, 6.7 or 6.9 million votes for Atiku, and only 8.7 million plus votes for President Tinubu. Now, when you add Peter Obi's 6.2 million votes to Atiku's 6.9 million votes, it is 13 million votes, Rufai Hosseini. 13 million votes is already more than our less than 9 million votes. So it is clear how the election was won and lost. It's not because of non-electronic transmission of results. It is because both of them split their votes.
Okay, no, so
that's what happened, please.
Okay, so that's why I just asked that question. But you said, you know, you can't hold brief for INEC. Because if INEC knew that the transmission was going to be discretionary, why did they even need to apologize? They would have just told Nigerians that, oh, we decide how we're going to do the election and all of that, transmit the report. So we've just chosen not to do it that way. But why did they go ahead to apologize? Why did they even say all the things they said before now? Why did they react to the insinuations that they might not transmit results electronically on the 11th of November 2022? Why? I come to you, sir. Why did INEC need to apologize if they knew that it was their own discretion, they could do whatever they want. Why did they need to apologize?
Well,
For the technical glitch.
their words say it, namely fraud. Because if you know you are wrong, you will say, I'm wrong, let us repeat the election. What I expect in this judgment of the Supreme Court that is coming is to do what other countries like Kenya have done, their Supreme Court judgments, repeat the election. Because the foundation is wrong. This question of it must be between this and that. It's not the issue. The issue, the foundation of the election was wrong. The foundation was wrong. I am going for examination, and I'm told that the time is so and so, and then I came too early or too late, and then you come around to say, I'm sorry. Actually, it was yesterday. My communication system was wrong. Now, if it was wrong, you repeat it. That is my opinion. This is what is done in other places. The election could be repeated, and maybe the person who won will win, now this time fairly. Secondly, this question of INEC and beavers is a shame, because even in Kenya, like I mentioned, the interesting thing for me, as far as Kenya is concerned, is that their Supreme Court judgments were, I followed it live, we're following what we're doing in Nigeria. And ironically, they followed the submissions made for the parties that lost than those that won here in Nigeria. So the rigged election is not a new thing in Nigeria. It happens at every level, as it is. So we have to conquer it. My prayer is that, please, people should stop calling for military rule in Nigeria. That is my prayer, because the history of the world shows that any country that has been ruled by the military never survives it. We are not surviving this one. I mentioned Kenya, they've never had it, so they don't have this type of problems we have in those other East African countries where they have never had military rule. Look at the United Kingdom with Oliver Cromwell. That was once they had it, and when the royal family came back, they went to where he was buried and brought out his dead skeleton, hanged it, and that's why you have Royal Air Force, Royal Navy, but not Royal Army. That is what, but in our own system, look at the Soviet Union, look at Russia. Look at Soviet Union, look at China. These are the people who have fought civil wars to establish a new form of government. And in every war front, the person who calls the shot is the Politburo member, that's the civilian, not the general. In their submarines, nuclear submarines, there is always a civilian there who tells them what to do, not the soldiers. No, who do that? No, as it is. So if you are calling for military rule, oh my God. You saw what happened after Shagari was overthrown. You saw what happened. That was the first time Nigerians started checking out. That's the expression. Checking out. This is all I'm pleading, and we haven't recovered from it. The economy collapsed, law and order, corruption became the order of the day, as it is. The military had never been able to do anything good in terms of the democracy and the economy anywhere. They've been in power.
Okay, gentlemen, well, we still have more questions for you, but let's take this short break. When we return, the conversation will continue. Stay with us. We'll be right back. It's still the morning show. The morning show here on the Arise News Channel. Still with us in the Abuja studio is Jesutega Onokpasa, lawyer and member of the dissolved All Progressives Congress Presidential Campaign Council. And here in Lagos, we have James C. Ezike, a lawyer and former legal counsel to Chief M.K. Abiola, Chief Odumegu Ojukwu, and Chief Celestine Umehia. Well, thank you for staying with us, Onokpasa and Mr. Ezike. This morning, I've had cause to quote Nicky Toby, and I would like to quote him again, because as I said, there's been very regular reference to him. I quoted also George Ogmutade JSC, as he then was, but let me go back to Nicky Toby. Pa Nicky Toby in Abubakar versus Musa Yar'Adua, I quote, "Courts of law do not give judgment according to public opinion or to reflect public opinion, unless such opinion represents or presents the state of the law. This is because the judge's clientele is the law and the law only. Public opinion in most instances is built on emotions and sentiments." Nicky Toby, unquote. So, but the interesting thing is that, you know, the petitioners in this case, they have already said they will go to the Supreme Court. So all these issues we're debating here, you know, the Supreme Court has the final say. So it's not as if there's anything that anybody can comment on with finality. However, I'd like to ask both of you, gentlemen, what are those preliminary lessons that you think we can draw from, you know, the findings and conclusions of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal at this moment, particularly with regard with time for the hearing of election petitions? Apart from the presidential election, in the states, we still have election petitions that have not been determined in a total of 25 states. Okay? There are other issues. The status of Abuja is, you know, what both of you have been talking about back and forth. But there are other issues, you know, that tribunal pronounced upon that could serve as preliminary lessons, just for general education. Let me start with you, Jesutega Onokpasa.
Thank you, Dr. Abati. I am really pleased that you quoted Justice Nicky Toby. And that goes to the core, very core of jurisprudence. The mantra of law is, let justice be done even if the heavens fall. Justice is not a popularity contest. It is not even democratic. It's just justice. It is fairness. It is truth. What, with respect, my learned senior Ezike and his group of people are advocating is akin to mob justice. We don't like Bola Tinubu's face. We don't like who he is, for whatever reason. Therefore, let the court sack him. Even when it is clear, crystal clear, that Peter Obi did not win the election. And when it is clear how he did not win the election, because he didn't win the election because Atiku Abubakar refused to step down for him. And Atiku lost because Peter Obi refused to step down for him. How else is the court going to do justice other than to give the election to the person that actually won it because of their mutual default? That's how Bola Tinubu won, Dr. Abati. And I'm sure you are intelligent enough to know exactly how Bola Tinubu won. With regards to timing and so on, I would like, I think like most other people, I would really love election petitions to be concluded timeously. But we are lawyers. You are a lawyer yourself. I think, thankfully, even the law has compressed the time within which petitions are to be dispensed with. Ironically, it is the people who were calling for election petitions to be held in 7 days, like my learned senior Olisa Agbakoba, who is a Peter Obi supporter. It was the same Peter Obi that kept asking for adjournment after adjournment after adjournment. These things are not easy. They are practical. They are practical. And I feel he went to court, he wasted his time, wasted the time of the courts, dumped a whole lot of, with respect, crap on the court. He didn't bother to try to prove what even Mr. Ezike then knows is critical to an election petition. Show us where you were rigged. Tell us the votes that were taken from your votes. Tell us the votes that were added to President Tinubu's votes. That is how you win an election petition. You don't go into extraneous issues of forfeiture of money, of double nomination, of ridiculous issues. That is what happened yesterday. I'm sure that Dr. Abati must have felt really, really touched for the lawyers on the other side yesterday, because they were excoriated by the court. They were. And it was a disgrace.
Mr. Ezike, what lessons can we begin to put aside?
Well, the first lesson is with regard to the conduct of elections. When I contested election in 1979, I lost. I ran under NPN. And my maternal uncle, who was a member of the House of Reps and also a member of the House of Chiefs in Enugu, said, well, you go to file a petition, you will win. Your opponent is not qualified. I've got all his papers. I said, I'm not going to do it. And he asked me why. I said, he won. This is a technicality of the law. If I had gone, I would have won in the court. I don't believe in it. Now, these things should be removed. There are so many technicalities. This question of doing youth service, this question of having this degree, this question of having been convicted. Kwame Nkrumah was convicted. He won the election in prison. These are, the only thing that should be done is to make debate compulsory, make it a law. That you attack your opponent, you committed fraud in America, you did this, you did that, you did that, but to disqualify a candidate by these things they are enumerating, these are technicalities, they should go. I don't believe in it. It doesn't really matter if it is what the people want. So let us do that and remove it. Now, talking about opinion, like my friend who was very close to me, Nikki Toby, said, well, that doesn't apply to, that's where jurisprudence comes. It doesn't apply to elections. If the public opinion is that Atiku won or that P2B won, and then the result is different, why should we ignore it? If we are talking about interpretation of laws, interpretation of documents, that is a different thing. The rules are clear. And invariably, if the interpretation is contrary to what the normal person would say, reasonable person would be, there's something wrong with that interpretation. There's something wrong with that interpretation. Oguntade said his own bit, but look at what he did in the Amechi case. Look at what he did. Amechi's petition was a pre-election matter. The Court of Appeal...
INEC is no longer the position of the law.
Yes, I know, but the point is that he violated the law. The law said that if it's a pre-election matter, as they said against Atiku in his petition against Buhari, if it's a pre-election matter, it shouldn't come into... It's all over. The time was over. But they said, yes, it is a pre-election matter, but are we going to leave him empty-handed? No. That's a scandal. So let us not leave the judiciary out of this mess, because there are so many judgments, and I have been involved in so many. I have got 3 judgments that I argued for. 3 cases I argued in the Supreme Court. The judgments have not been delivered, even though the Supreme Court rules say that once an appeal has been had, the judgment must be delivered. The Supreme Court, the courts that do these things are also to be blamed when it comes to election matters.
I thought Justice Samani said yesterday that election matters are sui generis.
Sui generis, yes.
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 In a class of their own.
Yes, and they are so vital to our lives that we can't take them for granted. There was a judgment, there was a Nobel Prize winner in the 90s in the United States, what gave him Nobel Prize is that what makes a country survive economically, politically, is the judiciary, the rule of law. We don't seem to know it. For instance, who is going to invest in a country like this, where if you win a case, all the other side has to do is to keep denying it. And when he finishes, the court does nothing in it. In other places, there'll be punitive damages. Punitive, running into billions for the delay. And therefore, when you are investing in a country, you know that when you win, that you will be adequately compensated. You will invest in it boldly. So I am not being partisan. Those rules should go. Everywhere else, and during the Abacha era, there was a conference on the youth service, and all the people who came from El Paso was, it should be voluntary. And so all these questions about Tinubu did this or didn't do that shouldn't come into it. What you should be blamed for is not taking part in the debate, so that the people can see him and even ask him questions. So there are the three estates of the realm, which we know, including the judiciary. Judiciary is failed. I'm sorry. I know the consequences to me as a lawyer. I go to court regularly, but it has failed when it comes to delivering for the people. They've delivered one judgment that I was involved in the case, like I was telling them in one court of appeal, that I did this case, but the people who are taking the credit for it are the judges. Their names are there, a case in maritime law, and because of it, before that judgment, every day you go to the Federal High Court, what do you get? Lawyers have to wait because maritime lawyers are arresting ships and releasing them. But after that judgment, no. Because of the consequences of it, now, the other countries are now, for the right article, Google, you see it there, but you will see my name. So if you deliver a good judgment, like the one they delivered, the Court of Appeal delivered with regard to Nnamdi Kanu, the judges who did it, their names will be in international law.
All right, Mr. Ezike.
Yes.
Just very quickly, because we have to, because of our time.
Okay.
Following on from lessons learned, is options available? Because both petitioners, at least the main petitioners, the PDP and the Labour Party, have said that they were going to take this further by going to the Supreme Court. And this question is for both Mr. Onokpasa and Mr. Ezike. But I'll start with you, Mr. Ezike, because you said that in your opinion, the judges have failed in this regard. Is there any hope going to the Supreme Court? And I'll ask Mr. Onokpasa as well.
I don't see any hope. But it will be a pleasant miracle if there's change. Because the judges who are in the Supreme Court, most of them are not the putters, they are not the Justice Shaws. You look at the thing and interpret it properly. Like I said, the thing to do is...
Again, you are impugning the integrity of the Supreme Court as presently composed.
Yes, I am. I know the risk I'm taking, but it is more important that we are safe and free in the country than for me to flatter them. And for your information, I have one or two of them that I call my friends. Yes, but the question is the level of jurisprudence. I say the problem here is a lot of bean counting. You start counting beans. No. What is the jurisprudence of it? Like in the United States, it is not the people who elect the president, it is the electoral college they have in the various states. Has anybody complained about it and said that, why should the electoral college, a few people in the various states, but when the votes are cast, the electoral college keeps quiet as it is. But if there's a problem, in Nigeria, the electoral college will interfere every time as it is. So when you make provision and say that Abuja is like that, you won't say it is wrong. It is there. If you don't want it anymore, you change the law. Now, the future with regard to this election will actually determine the future of Nigeria. Because this is the first time I noticed that young people were enthused in politics. This is after the toll gate thing. And if anybody doesn't understand history, then, the judges, then I think I would recuse myself if I'm a judge. If you understand history, you know where these things are going, and that your name will be there when the history is made. The history of this country, its survival or otherwise, may depend on this election.
All right. I'd like to go to Mr. Onokpasa now. Thank you, Mr. Ezike. Mr. Onokpasa, please, your take on this. Going to the Supreme Court, PDP, Labour Party.
That is their option. If they want to, they can go. I would just want to react to something that my learned senior said about the Supreme Court. It is not his place to impugn the integrity of the Supreme Court. He is not a Supreme Court judge. If he was that so great a lawyer, maybe he would be a Supreme Court judge. It is highly unfair of him to impugn the integrity of their lordships. Secondly, he made a comment about public opinion, that the court should follow.
Mr. Onokpasa,
I'm not doing that. I'm reacting to what he said, please.
I think you should take that back. You shouldn't have attacked him personally, that if he was so great a lawyer, he would be on the Supreme Court. You can't do that to a fellow guest. You cannot do that. Mr. Onokpasa, take that back. Take that back with due respect. Take that back.
I will not, please.
You can't do that to a fellow guest.
He said that the justices, will you hear me out, young man? He said the justices of the Supreme Court
take that back.
Are not like the likes.
Mr. Onokpasa.
My God. Oh God.
Mr. Onokpasa, kindly take that back.
I am a lawyer. I will not stand any lawyer insulting the justices of the Supreme Court.
Take what you said
Please,
back.
I won't. You are not a lawyer, young man. I said I will not take it back. You will not impugn the integrity of the Supreme Court bench in front of me. How dare you? That is our Supreme Court.
With all due respect, you have no right, Mr. Onokpasa, to come out here and castigate a fellow guest saying, hang on a minute.
He has a right to insult the Supreme Court bench.
Hang on a minute. Nobody has said he has a right to impugn. When he said it, Dr. Abati replied him, but you have no right to tell a guest, our guest here, that if he was so great a lawyer, he will be sitting on the Supreme Court. Now you are attacking him and attacking his character. And that's what we're saying you're taking back.
He has a right to compare our Supreme Court justices with who?
You choose to hear what you want to hear anyway.
That they are not what?
Nobody has supported him for impugning the Supreme Court. I told you, if you heard me properly, that Dr. Abati had a clawback and said, no, you are impugning the character of the court. We don't support that, but you have no right to also berate his personality. Okay, wrap up and let's go. Wrap up and let's go quickly.
Can we settle this?
Just wrap up and let's go, please.
Beautiful. Now, according to Mr. Ezike, he says that the court might decide a case according to public opinion. Well, the public opinion is actually even on Tinubu's side. Because according to the umpire INEC, he got the highest number of votes cast. It is not on Peter Obi's side. So I don't know what public opinion Mr. Ezike is talking about.
Okay, is that your point? Thank you very much for your point of view. Really appreciate you for your point of view there. Thank you so much.
Right.
But out here...
Yes, a big thank you to Mr. Ezike in studio with us and Mr. Onokpasa joining us from Abuja. It's time now for a short break on the morning show. When we return...
I want to add, I never impugned the Supreme Court. I simply said there's no hope the case going there. That's all I really said. As for impugning them, I don't know when I said they were corrupt or that. I didn't say that. I said if by my saying all along that there were cases that were wrongly decided, I'm not impugning their integrity.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much for explaining your point, Mr. Ezike, and thank you, Mr. Onokpasa, as well, for joining us this morning.